Uranium has rallied by more than 40% this year, while other industrial metals and metals in general has been trading lower. What's going on? Uranium is a radioactive material mined like many other mined metals, primarily in Kazakhstan and Canada. And the usage, I think we all know, is primarily two functions. It goes towards nuclear power plants, producing electricity, and also into the production of nuclear weapons. The focus here is obviously the power plants, where we're seeing increased demand in the coming years as the world moves towards electrification and a greener environment. The reason why uranium has become interesting for investors after, I would say, more than a decade in the doldrums is simply because demand is starting to show signs of increasing again. We're already seeing more nuclear reactors being built, especially in Asia. We're seeing a change in the US legislation towards promoting nuclear power. And in Europe, we are still sitting on the edge here, sitting on the fence, not really knowing yet what direction we want to go, but we are already seeing some European countries increasing electricity production through the building of nuclear power plants. And that will obviously in the future increase demand for uranium. Traditionally, the most common way to invest into the uranium sector has been through the mining companies. There are several major and well-known companies that you can take a closer look at. And again, if you want to diversify your exposure not just into a single company, there are also ETFs tracking a basket of individual mining companies. By doing that, you reduce the risk, individual company risk, and you try to achieve a broad exposure to the price developments of the underlying uranium price. Before we take a close look at how you can invest into this sector, I think it's worthwhile also just pointing out the inherent risks there is regarding investments in some of these metals. Uranium has gone through a decade of very low price action following this Fukushima disaster. More than a decade ago, the prices tumbled and we stayed very low for a long time. Just in the recent couple of years, prices have started to move significantly higher, and that's also why investors are starting to pay attention to it. While we mentioned some of the inherent risks that also involves investment in uranium, I think it's worth pointing out that this market can be very volatile. The uranium market is still a very small market, so basically if you have large participation of investors and speculators, then prices can swing quite aggressively from time to time. So do keep that in mind if you look into uranium as an investment. Also in terms of, well, we talked about demand being fairly inelastic. We know more or less what demand is going to be in the coming years. There is obviously a risk on the supply side. A lot of the uranium that we consume in the West is produced in Russia, and we know the sanctions that has been applied for certain products out of Russia has had an impact elsewhere. Russia could obviously also decide to cut down on its exports. So this is just a risk that potentially could support prices to the upside. But generally, the long-term perspective is what you need to keep in mind when you look at the uranium sector, and at the same time respect the volatility that comes with an investment into this sector. We all know by now that the green transformation, which is accelerating and ongoing, will require a lot of electricity. Electricity historically has been produced by coal, gas, and in recent years increasingly also by solar and wind. The problem obviously with solar and wind right now is also well known. They are very good when the sun is shining and the wind is blowing, but on days where we don't have those two, we get a lot more volatility into the production of electricity. And as we try to move away from coal, companies and countries around the world are looking for alternatives, and that's where nuclear power comes in because of its base load, basically its ability to just constantly produce electricity at a steady pace. So nuclear power right now is a very viable solution and alternative to replacing the base load that we originally had been used to getting from coal, and to some extent also gas. I hope this video helped you understand why there is a growing interest in uranium and why the green transformation plays an important part of this interest. And also that you hopefully understand the inherent risk that comes with investments like these. Thank you for watching.